No problem, inshallah. I think we should begin. Brother Yusuf, let's start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us begin our program tonight with the recitation of Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. صدق الله العظيم. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, this evening we welcome you all to the week 17 of the seminar, A Journey of Hearts and Minds, with Badiuzzzaman Sayyid Nursi and his Risala An-Nur. Alhamdulillah, we have managed to complete 16 sessions, and we have greatly benefited from the discussion and the presentation by our beloved brother Yusuf Kara. This seminar is brought to you by Khairat Foundation Turkey, and our speaker, Brother Yusuf Kara, we have all known him over the last few weeks. He is from Turkey, and he has completed his degree in English literature and has 2 master's degree, one in comparative religion from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, and another one on international relations from Turkey. We are indeed very pleased to have him with us every week, and we have greatly benefited from very insightful and very clear discussions that he has presented to us. For tonight, our topic is a comparison of the Quranic civilization and Western civilizations. Without any further ado, may I invite Brother Yusuf Kara to start. Brother Yusuf.
Yeah.
Brother Yusuf, you are muted.
Okay, sorry. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brother Muhammad Abdul Latif and all the rest of the brothers and sisters and scholars and their esteemed friends in Bangladesh, I greet all of you once again with the Islamic greetings, and I wish you a happy day and happy week, inshallah. Okay, so inshallah today our topic is another one. So every week we are covering different topics from the point of view of Imam Badiuzzzaman Sayyid Nursi, and inshallah today we are going to discuss the topic of civilization. So trying to fix my screen. Okay. Of course, we will do a comparative discussion today, a comparison of Quranic civilization and Western civilization. And there are several parts in the Risale Nur discussing this topic, which is one of them is a 25th word. And this chapter is a long one, is a very good one, is a very effective one. It is titled Miracles of the Quran. So again, in this particular part, Imam Badiuzzzaman discusses this issue, comparison of the civilizations also, and along with many other topics under the miracles of the Quran. And of course there are other chapters. One is 17th flesh in the book of Flashes, and several other small places. So the first thing that they would like that attracts our attention is Imam Zaman does not call it Islamic civilization. He calls it Quranic civilization. So this is something to be pointed out, because yes, we call it Islamic civilization. We have called it so throughout the civilization. But Imam Zaman just stresses the importance on the Quran, because Quran is our source of knowledge, right? Because we have ontological and epistemological as well as axiological grounds as human beings, as civilizations. So on these three grounds, if I may just, sorry, close this window quickly. It is making noise. Okay. So we have ontologically, every civilization. Let us start with the word of civilization. So what it means? It means it is the reflection in life. In very brief and rough definition of civilization, maybe the reflection of any thought, any worldview on life. Okay, the reflection of any worldview into the life, individual life, social life, and economical and all walks of life. So it is the reflection of a worldview on each walk of life. So this is very rough and simple definition of civilization. And what is the reflection of then what we call as Islamic civilization? The source of Islamic civilization is Quran, because Quran, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ontologically. We have a belief in Allah, and our source of knowledge is the Quran and Hadith, and of course other Islamic, ijma' and qiyas. So mainly we call it as the Quran, and next to it Hadith. So our life takes its source from Quran, isn't it? So that is the reason why Imam Zaman calls it Quranic civilization, because Quran is our civilization, is the source of, is the book that our civilization is, dependent upon. And when we look in the Quran, brings about Islam. Quran brings about the civilization and everything. Okay, so when we look at the Western civilization as opposed to Islamic or Quranic civilization, Western civilization is we can say, the present day and predominant and overwhelming civilization and culture in the world. So this is a civilization that has born just within the last couple of centuries, and then it has a hegemony over the world in each countries, in every country, whether it is a Muslim or a non-Muslim, whatever. So, and with the effect of globalization, so we have, as we call it, the world has become a village. So every part in the world, we are doing the same things, wearing the same things, eating the same things, watching the same things, and everything else. So of course we have a challenge as Muslims in this particular time, in this Akhirul Zaman, as we call it. And so now Imam Zaman makes a comparison of the Quranic civilization. We can call it, he calls it as the pillars, okay, as the items, as the pillars, articles of Quranic civilization, and the pillars of a Western civilization. So before we go into those pillars to compare, in another part in the Recitation, Imam Zaman gives in the 17th flash, he says, what is Europe? He says it should not be misunderstood. I mean, Imam Zaman does not oppose Europe as a whole, right? So when we compare Islamic and Western civilizations, or Quranic versus Western civilizations, Imam Zaman does not oppose and object to the Europe as a whole. He says it should not be misunderstood. Europe is twofold. Can you hear me? Okay. So Europe is twofold. Okay. One follows the sciences which serve justice and right, and the industries beneficial for the life of society through the inspiration it has received from the true Christianity. This first Europe I am not addressing. So when Imam Bediüzzaman criticizes, the Europe, he does not criticize this phase of Europe. This is beneficial. It follows, it seeks justice and right and the benefit of the humanity through the industries, and it receives inspiration from the true Christianity. I am addressing the second corrupt Europe, which, through the darkness of the philosophy of naturalism, supposing the evils of civilization to be its virtues, has driven mankind to vice and misguidance. So Europe has developed its philosophy of naturalism, atheism, materialism. So, and then it has a worldview, ontological, epistemological, and axiological. So ontologically, it doesn't believe in a God. It says just the material, the nature exists. So there are naturalists and materialists. And then they say the source of knowledge is our reason and what we see, and the nature we see is the field of knowledge, and our reason is the tool to extract knowledge from it. Okay, so they make experiment, etc. So they believe in this way of finding out the knowledge, the true knowledge. And axiologically, they say, of course, when they have an atheist worldview, they also have a, sociology based on this atheist and Darwinist, worldview. So they also see, actually, we should not speak on that too much because we will compare, right? How they, because axiology means, how it reflects, especially the moral values, right? How a worldview, ontological and epistemological worldview, reflects on life in terms of moral values. So in this regard, inshallah, we will be comparing Islam and West. So in this regard, at this point, let us also make a quick summary of the history of the near history, recent history of West. As we know, it was the Christianity that was overwhelming in the Western countries. But by the 15th century, so they started the Enlightenment period, Renaissance, and the reform movements, and then they have went against Christianity, and then it was only the source of knowledge. It was only the church. Of course, Christianity was distorted. It was not a good source of knowledge, guidance, etc. And then it has a great pressure on people, and then people wanted to run away of this pressure, which also they had a right to do so. But of course, they went to a wrong direction because they don't have any good guidance, isn't it? So when you are going out of something wrong, you should have a good guidance so that you don't go into something which is also wrong. So they went to, they ran out of something wrong, but they went into something even worse than that. So they, after running away from Christianity, at that time, and then they said, okay, there is no God. Okay, so and then, as we know today, like Europe has become a greatly atheist society. So atheism is really dominant in the world today. Even those who culturally can be considered as Christians, actually they are atheists. As it happens to many religions, Christianity is also being devoured in the West. It is being lost, even the distorted version. So so the source of knowledge, it was the church and Bible that spoke, that guided people. And then people started writing books, as the Enlightenment age started. They started writing books and publishing those books and spreading, etc. And then, so the source of knowledge increased. Now people are also source of knowledge. And then they started writing, on a daily basis. Now they have started writing with newspapers. So the source of knowledge has even increased now with the newspapers on a daily basis. And then we had the radio with technology, isn't it? Now people are speaking on an hourly basis, right? And then there is television now, even we can see and everything. So the source of knowledge has increased and increased. So after Christianity, we call it modernist age, isn't it? That continued until the Second World War. So in modernism, they said, okay, Christianity, it was holding us from a material advancement, from progress, from welfare, from happiness, and from freedom, etc., etc. So modernism, promised people to be free and happy and everything. And then, so this term, this term comes until the Second World War. And then with the Second World War, we see a postmodern world now. So in the postmodern world, in the modern world, okay, they were against religion, but the cultures were there. Now, cultures were practiced. But now, postmodernism, it says there is no culture which is, a norm for everyone. We should not take any culture as a norm. We should live the way we want. So now they want the people even to run away from the, from the control of cultures, family bonds, any bond that is binding, that is restricting people. So they want people to be free and to be individuals now. So now we are living in this postmodern world. So that's why they want every individual to be free, to go against their families and everything else. So now we are living in this time, that is the postmodern world. Again, they promise the same things: happiness, freedom, welfare, etc. But people are increasingly unhappy. They are suiciding, themselves, etc. And this suicide happens mostly in the First World War countries, right? In the countries that has a good material welfare, etc. So it's understood that actually happiness does not come with material advancement and material progress and welfare. Okay, so this is kind of a short and quick definition of today's Europe with its past. Okay, now Imam Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, summarizes, the tenets, the pillars of Western civilization and Islamic civilization with 5 points. Western civilization, the point of support in the life of society is force. Okay, so when people do anything, so by the way, the civilization, the topics of civilization has like on individual basis, on social basis. Of course, today we will talk more on social basis. And in this, there is another chapter in the words, and there is the comparison of the philosophy, worldview, actually, of Quranic worldview and Western worldview also. So that is also, inshallah, one more day, another day, we can also discuss that one. So the point of support in the life of society in a Western, civilization is force. People rely on force, to be, in a good position, to be taking care of themselves, to have their livelihood, etc. To win, okay. So they say force is what we need, power is what we need. Second, they aim the benefits of people, individual benefits, social benefit, personal interests and benefits. And then the principle of life in the Western civilization is conflict, because everyone is going after their benefits. Everyone is using force to do what they want, and they're going after their benefits. So conflict comes into existence. The bond between communities is racialism or racism and negative nationalism. So racism, we know what it is. Nationalism, sometimes discussed, it is something good or something bad. Again, Imam Bediüzzaman, just like he divided Europe into two, he divides nationalism also into two. So we sometimes go extreme, while we understand something, but we should have the wasat, okay, the just and the moderate and the perfect balance and solution or explanation and definition of something, because sometimes we are going either to the extreme, to extreme level. Either we excess or we go to the negligent level. So we should remain at the moderate level, as they call it, wasatiyah in Malaysia, as they have, marked it that way. Ummatan wasata. Quran calls it ummatan wasata. So what is nationalism? Should we just reject it? It is something, bad, or it is something good? So we should divide. Imam Bediüzzaman divides it. It says negative nationalism is what you regard your nationalism superior to other nationalism, races, right? Or your nation, your country superior to other countries. So you say my country is always good and other countries or nations, they're bad, etc. And then you take your nation as a bond, and you disregard Islam to be a bond between you, right? So you disregard Islam to be a bond between you as a Turkish and Bangladeshi and Malay, etc. And then you say, no, we are only Bangladeshis, we are friends of each other, others are enemies of us, etc. So this is what we call as negative nationalism. Of course, there are many other things to be discussed in this regard. Inshallah, one day we can have a full discussion on nationalism. And a positive nationalism is again something good, because we need the idea of nationalism to have a bond again, right? So we need several bonds, to have a bond to serve our country, to love our country, to love our people, you know, and then also to, you know, to unite or to merge, to, you know, to match our nation with Islam. For example, we should say like Bangladeshi people, they're always with Islam. That's why I am proud to be Bangladeshi, because Bangladesh means, you know, Muslim, servants of Islam. Turkish, likewise, etc., etc. So Malay, etc. You know, so our nations again should be, you know, at the service of Islam, and we can also be proud to be a Bangladeshi, a Turkish, etc. If, you know, we are serving Islam, you know, as people. So again, nationalism is something good, you know, when it is discussed in this regard. But of course, West takes it as in a racist level, in a negative manner. So, you know, they come together around, you know, their racism. Even they have, they call it Eurocentrism. So they have, you know, formed their union on the basis of, you know, religion as a Christianity. That was actually before, but of course it is a Christianity, still it is so, but atheism is, you know, very quick and very powerful, as we all know it. You know, the language is English, the territory is Western, etc. So on several things they have, you know, gathered together, even though they had the wars of religion for 10 years, 30 years, etc. So they've managed to form their unions. Okay, and then they have thrown the idea of nationalism into the like Ottoman, and they have, so nationalism was one of the reasons why Ottoman, of course, collapsed, and it started in the Balkans first, and then there were some riots against Ottoman on the basis of nationalism. Okay, and finally, its aim, again, another aim, is to provide amusements for gratifying the appetites of the soul and increasing men's needs. So then again, they are aiming at what? They are promising what to the people? They will provide people, you know, amusement, what they say, happiness, isn't it? They say our purpose is happiness, freedom, etc. So they say we will provide amusement, entertainment for you, okay? For what? Amusement of what? Just to gratify the nafs, to fulfill, to satisfy the nafs, the soul, okay? But in the meantime, they are increasing the people's needs, because they say, wow, to have more amusement, because they're always watching TV and listening everything. So they say we have to have more and more. We have to have this, we have to have this to be able to, you know, be happy and to amuse ourselves. So again, Western civilization is just increasing men's needs. They don't teach people to be economical. They teach people to be, you know, as wasteful as possible. Okay, so this is a summary, okay, so the 5 points. So then Imam Bediüzzaman makes an analysis. So since they rely on force, isn't it, the point of support, you know, they rely on something, okay, in the social life. So they rely on force, and then they aim benefits. The principle of their life is conflict, and the bond between communities is racialism and negative nationalism. You see, like Germans with themselves, French is with themselves, you know, every country is working for the benefits of their countries on the basis of their nationalities. And then they say, okay, amusement is for the people, in the meantime, increasing their needs. So Imam Bediüzzaman now discusses these 5 things. He says the mark of force is aggression. So they rely on force. So when there is a force, there is aggression. Okay, there is aggression. And then so they aim at benefits, right? Since the benefits are insufficient to meet all needs, everyone is going after their benefit. Okay, but then you have a lot of needs. How you can fulfill your benefits, and everyone has needs. Okay, if everybody goes after the benefits and everyone has so much needs, so their mark is that everyone tussles and jostles over them, because everyone is going after their personal benefits, so they will tussle and jostle, they will fight with each other. The mark of conflict is contention. Okay, again, when there is conflict, you know, people have again aggression and you know, unhappiness, and there's a disorder and chaos. And the mark of racialism is aggression, since it thrives on devouring others. Again, when the bond of communities is racialism, is nationalism, And then because it is just, it wants to devour other nations, it wants to kill and end, isn't it? Give an end to other nations or imperialize, colonize other nations. So it again creates and results in aggression and conflict. And then they do what? They want to provide amusements for people, right? To gratify their nafs and increase their needs. So thus, it is because of these principles that civilization, that despite all its virtues, it has provided a sort of superficial happiness, yet it wants to give happiness, amusement, but it gives a superficial happiness, not real, a superficial, so-called, apparently, right? Happiness, from outside you see it smiling, but inside it's burning. So it has provided a sort of superficial happiness for only, it is superficial and it is not for everyone. It is not real, it's not long-lasting, it is not true happiness. It is not felt, in the whole body, spirit and body. No, it is a superficial one. Outsiders, they see it is as if he is, or sometimes he is happy. But that is again for not everyone, that is for 20% of mankind, and cast 80% into distress and poverty. As we call it, they even divide the world into first world, second world, and third world countries. And they never want a second world country to be first world, and a third world country to be second and first world again. So they are colonizing, and everything is still going on. So again, this this is of course the pillars of the civilization. So this is the scenario. So when it comes to Quranic civilization, again the 5 points here, okay, and let's see how the Quran goes about. The point of support in the life of society is truth. Quran relies upon truth. It doesn't rely on force. It says you have to rely on truth. If you rely on truth, you will succeed. If you rely on haqq, if you rely on Allah, and if you rely on what is right, okay, what is the right action, what is the right conduct, then you will be successful. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The good end is for the muttaqun, right? For the pious ones. So be pious, abstain from wrong, mistakes, and have istiqamah. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ. Be straight as you are commanded. So Allah wants us to be straight, to rely on haqq, to rely on truth, what is right, and to abstain from what is wrong. And then the good end will, both in this world and in akhirah, will be for the pious ones, will be for the ones who go after the truth, who rely on truth. Okay, unlike the West. So its aim, the aim of Quran, is virtue and Allah's pleasure. Okay, to make Allah happy with us. Okay, ikhlas. So virtue, it is not benefits. It is not personal benefits, to be rich, to have positions, to have this, to have that. No, it is the virtue, truthfulness, having all kind of good moral values, and then Allah's pleasure. Not to make myself pleased and my benefits, no, to do everything for the sake of Allah. The principle of its life, okay, is the principle of mutual assistance. Mutual assistance. But they were doing what? Let's go back. Conflict, right? Their aim was conflict. Sorry, their principle of life, because they are going, each one is going after their benefits. So as a result, there is the principle of life. Everyone has to have conflict. The fittest wins, isn't it? This is like a common word. Whoever is the strong one, the fit one, so he will win. Or they say the big fish will swallow the small fish, isn't it? So you have to, I mean, there is conflict. Even they see the nature, you can see, like, their documentaries and everything, National Geographic. So you can see that they are covering the nature, always fighting with each other, eating each other, isn't it? So they say there is a nature, there is a conflict in the nature also. So we humans also, we have to have this conflict to exist. So this is how they view the world. The principle of life is conflict, according to them. But for us, the principle of life is mutual assistance. And this is how we believe in the natural world also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everything, to serve for other beings. It is something, subhanallah, yani, they don't live for themselves. They're serving others. Allah has created plants for animals, plants and animals for mankind. lifeless beings for mankind, you know. It is the Allah's kingdom, right? Allah makes some of them, and they're Allah's servants, and they have a happiness doing so. They have their reward, they have their price, they have their price, they have their reward, you know, in this world for the services that they are doing for human beings and for other beings. It is not that they are being like an easy prey for others, no. They are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each and everything is praising Allah and glorifying Allah. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. Right? When they do something, they are not unhappy. But of course, there is a what? There is a nature, I mean, there is a sharia among the animals also. And the animals, they know it, you know, Allah has taught them. So when they go against it, they also, Imam Ibn Zaman says, they also face some sad ends. Those animals who are going, who are, you know, transgressing their sharia, you know, if they should not hunt something, if they hunt it, because they have nafs, they have desire. So if they hunt it, they intrinsically, as they call it, intrinsically, you know, but we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides into their hearts, inspires into them. So then they know what not to hunt, what not to eat. But if they do so, Imam Ibn Zaman says the Sharia will take place, and then they will also get their, you know, punishment in this world also. Either they will be killed by a hunt by somebody, or something can happen, something else happens. So, so in our life, in Quranic civilization, the principle of life is the principle of mutual assistance. So we help each other. تعاونوا على البر والتقوى. So Allah, in a number of ayat, Prophet in his entire life, they all taught us about this mutual assistance. We don't live for ourselves, we live for others. We don't live for our benefits, we live for gratifying, you know, pleasing Allah only. And then we don't live, you know, we don't create conflict in life, rather we, you know, have mutual assistance in life. And the bond of communities in a Quranic civilization is the bond of religion, class, and country. Of course, religion on top of everything. And then, you know, we have several, you know, things that bind us together. Nationalism is one of them, you know, being the member of a country is one of them. Again, you know, people, you know, working people, like, you know, different people in their jobs, in their, you know, like colleagues, they're all, again, the things that, you know, bring them together. So these are the bonds that bring us together, and religion on top of everything is what brings us together, because we are, when we say we are Muslim, we have, you know, nearly 2 billion brothers and sisters in the world. And then its aim, the aim of Quran is to place a barrier before the illicit assaults of the soul's base appetites. Our nafs wants to go after base appetites, desires, isn't it? Lowly and base desires, haram desires. So Quran wants to place a barrier before the desires of nafs, and to urge the spirit to sublime matters. It urges our spirit to go for sublime matters, and to satisfy man's elevated emotions and encourage him towards the human perfections. So our emotions, love, for example, how the love, feeling of love, you know, we talked about it, isn't it? About the feelings, how the feeling of love is satisfied. Of course, we didn't talk much about the love in terms of how it is utilized, but it can only be satisfied when it is turned to its true owner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it is turned to the owner of true beauty, true perfection, and true benevolence. There are 3 reasons of love: perfection, beauty, perfection, and benevolence, right? Giving. So these things, the source of them is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we see as a beauty, as perfection and benevolence in the world is very shadow of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty and perfection and benevolence. And this is what we love. So in this regard, you know, our love and other emotions, they are actually satisfied, you know, through the guidance of the Quran. And again, we are encouraged by the Quran to human perfection. So we see, you know, great people who are doing great services for the humanity, right? Perfecting themselves and perfecting their societies. And then when we see, what Islam takes as, as a point of support in life, as aim, as principle of life, bond between communities and another aim. So again, we see the consequence. As for the truth, the mark is concord. So when Quran takes the truth as a principle, right, as a point of support in life, and then the consequence is concord, right? So because we rely on haqq, so we will all be together, unity, right? We will not go into conflict. Again, the mark of virtue is mutual support. So when we go after not benefits, but to be virtuous and going after the pleasure of Allah, then we will have, good moral values, and then we will want to do, moral support, mutual support, in the society. And the mark of mutual assistance, again, we said, the principle of life is mutual assistance, is hastening to help one another. So we will not go into conflict and hustle and tussle with people, but we will rush to help people. And the mark of religion is brotherhood and attraction. So when we take the religion as our bond, we will be brothers to each other, and we will, come together. And the result of reigning in and tethering the evil commanding soul. So, Quran says, stop stop practicing your evil commanding soul. Stop going after lowly and base, emotions, desires. So the result of doing so is, the result of reigning in and tethering the evil commanding soul and living the spirit free, so we control our soul, nafs, and then we leave our spirit free, right? And we urge it towards perfection, so doing so is happiness. So what is real happiness in this world and the next? Because Western civilization, they want to give happiness through amusements, but it is that a superficial happiness and only for the 20%. But in Islam, there is the real happiness, both in this world and in Akhirah. For them, there is no happiness in Akhirah at all. But here, there is both happiness, real happiness in this world, and real true happiness, absolute happiness in the Akhirah, which is, through disciplining our nafs and setting our spirit free and urging it towards perfection. So, final word. Thus, despite the virtues present-day civilization has acquired from the guidance of the Quran in particular, and from the preceding revealed religions, in point of fact, it has thus suffered defeat before the Quran. So we see that Western civilization has some values. That's why we don't, completely, ignore it. But it has got the good values from Quranic teachings, although they're not Muslims, but they see the implications of Islamic life and they see it, they evaluate it. So they say, wow, we need these things if we want good things to happen in our society, and also from the earlier revealed religions. So what they have is not from their point of, from their worldview, is actually from the worldview of religions, the heavenly religions, because it has not, because it has acquired, their own point of view in general. So they are suffering, and they will suffer, defeat before the Quran. So Quran is the one which will be, victorious, inshallah. We will see that Quran will be prevailing, in the world, because the people, what they need is given to them, really, really, really given to them in real, case. I mean, in real terms, it is given to them. If it is happiness, if it is whatever, justice, whatever they want, mutual assistance, and everything is given by Quran. True happiness, mutual assistance, success, whatever people want, it is given, as we have just mentioned here, it is given by the Quran. So this is why, inshallah, we see that humanity will reach, true happiness and success through the guidance of the Quran. So this is, inshallah, a comparison of the Quranic and Western civilizations from the social perspective.
দুবাই আয়োজন করলো কে?
Thank you, Mr. Yusuf Kara.
এবার আসলে আয়োজক দেশকে ছিল।
Okay, let me just. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Thank you so much. That was really enlightening, but I understand that this is a very difficult concept to grasp. and some more the words that are used to describe are very philosophical in nature, and these words not very easy to grasp either, right? So of course I am not sure what would be the Bengali appropriate their thought and share their questions, and we can get a little bit more clearer picture on this, on some of these topics, right? So I'll open the floor and then see who has any comment or question. Please raise your hand and then I'll recognize you and then you can proceed afterwards. I have one or two observations that came to my mind. One is, of course, I think when we are judging the Western civilization, they themselves have got very different. Of course, I think probably some of the basics are very similar, but some of them are very egalitarian. For example, a lot of Scandinavian nations where distribution and the welfare for the people are a lot more equal or a lot more spread out compared to, say, United States or some other Western European nations. So this could be, I don't know. I don't know what is your explanation on this, but yes, there are, as you said, right? Only 20% reach that actual happiness or progress or well-being, but there are countries where they're a lot more egalitarian than probably only 20% benefiting from the material gains. So that's something that came to my mind. But at the same time, also, I think your conclusion has indicated something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I think it is the Egyptian scholar Muhammad Abduh. He said that he went to the West and then he found Islam there, but not Muslims. And then he went to Muslim countries and then where he found Muslims, but not Islam. Something like that. I don't remember the exact quote, right? But I remember something like that was it's a very famous quote, I think, from him, right? So again, I think it relates to also some of the things that you have presented.
Yes. Maybe, Brother Abdul Latif, I would like to insert something here.
Sure,
of course,
sure.
what we discuss here is the Quran itself and the principles of Western civilization. But things are interchanging.
Okay, yeah, true.
Yeah. So in reality, we don't see that Muslims are 100% practicing what is in the Quran.
Yeah.
And we don't.
They are practicing more than us.
Yeah. In this regard, when you see sometimes like truthfulness, they may become, of course, not entirely, but they may become, locally more truthful than us.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, we have not good example in this regard. I mean, someone is abstaining from eating pork. Like, he went abroad for business, and he was dealing with people in a non-Muslim country. When they went to a restaurant with a friend, he said, "I don't eat pork. Why? It is haram." And then while doing business, he was lying. And then, "This is halal." His friend said, "It is haram and this is halal."
True. So I think these things can be very enlightening to see, right? So sometimes we are just not. So I think the word Quranic civilization probably says it all. It's not what we are and what we follow, but it's the Quran.
This is Quranic civilization. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us to practice it, inshallah.
So I see two hands raised.
By the way, Brother Abdul Latif, sorry for I'm interrupting a lot.
No.
Alhamdulillah, when we look at our societies, we are practicing also. Yes, we are criticizing ourselves. We are doing so, and we frankly do it. And this is, again, as we are Muslims, we are criticizing ourselves to better ourselves. But we also see that we are doing great in many regards. Like, for example, we give for the sake of Allah.
Yeah.
And we truly, consider people, rightly, and then for justice and so many things. Like, you can see that, Muslims, we are doing things very seriously.
Yeah.
At least we are struggling. But of course, there is a system in the world also. even in our countries, in our vicinities. There is a global system sometimes that we cannot change, and it has changed the people's perceptions. We are, by identity, we are Muslim, but we are already formatted actually to be something else. And people are inclined to change otherwise, you know. We are inclined to change to become something else, and they are inclined to, because they are in a, like by default, they are, if we call them as a, you know, not believing in Allah, etc., atheists, etc., so it means they are not good. So their inclination is from bad to good. But we are in good, so our inclination will be from good to better, or from good to bad.
Okay, so I see Advocate Mr. Ashraful Islam. He has raised his hand. Let's listen to him. Yes, please proceed. Advocate Ashraful Islam, please.
Thank you, dear brother.
We can't hear you. There are breaks in the line.
His lucid presentation about the
now
Western civilization. And could you hear me?
Better now. Yeah, now better.
Okay. Thank you, dear brother Muhammad Yusuf Karam, for his lucid presentation about the Western civilization and the Quranic civilization. I would like to add something that the civilization is, I would like to say that is have developed some sort of system, and that's why they are in their country, they maintain their system, they are more disciplined. But whether they leave their country and go coming to our country or the Asian country, then they will satisfaction. They have wealth, power, wealth, but they have no satisfaction. This is the main reason.
Difficulty understanding you because there are lots of breaks in the line and there are a lot of lags. We are having trouble understanding you. The line is not good.
Now,
Brother Abdul Latif, I have to leave in 4 or 5 minutes.
I could see.
Could you hear me?
Better, but can you be quick and brief?
Is it clear now?
Yes, yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes, yes, it is. Go ahead.
Now I would like to ask Mr. Now I would like to ask a question. Our dear brother Yusuf Karam. The chapter 103 of Surah Al-Asr is the relevant of Quranic civilization. Dear brother Yusuf Karam, could you hear me?
Brother Yusuf, you are muted.
So the question is Surah Al-Asr.
Surah Al-Asr.
Is that related?
The Surah Al-Asr is relevant to the Quranic civilization?
Of course, Quran is each and every ayah of Quran is the you know lays down the foundations of civilizations. So it is encouraging people, you know, wal asr innal insana lafi khusr, the human being in loss, illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihati. So except those who believe and those who do good deeds, you know, wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. So who, you know, advise the truth and who advise patience. Of course, this is a human value, a social value, and this is, of course, one of the parts and parcels of the civilization.
We'll take one more question. Mr. Kausar Ahmed, he raised his hand. Mr. Kausar, are you there? You wanted to say something?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I'm here. I was just adding an info about the story Mr. Brother Yusuf Kara narrating that particular time. He was telling a story of a businessman who was dealing with someone else and he didn't consume pork. I have heard this story from a military person. His name is Mr. Ishaq Ahmed Beg Trishonku. You might have known about him. I really don't know. He told me that when he was doing a business in China, he was contracting contract with someone, and that particular time this kind of story had happened. Someone refused to consume pork, and thereafter.
Yeah, true. I mean, it presents that sometimes we just choose what is convenient and then ignore the other aspects of the principles. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Amin, do you have a question? That was
Yes.
the last one.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Please proceed.
My small question is like that. Our children, that means the next generation, are mostly addicted to Western civilization. How can we guide them for Quranic civilization in our family life?
Okay, thank you. Brother Yusuf, you may answer these questions and conclude since you have to leave soon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, of course, as we say, the civilization is based upon, I mean, we could say, on theoretical and practical grounds. And Islam, Quran says, Iman, belief in Allah, that's something at the level of thought, and Amal, that is at the level of practice. So when we make our children to have a strong link with Allah, to have a strong faith in Allah, and then that will lead to strong action, strong Amal, all right? So, and at the level of Iman, there are things to do, which we discussed before. And at the level of deeds also, we should not just impose them, just tell them what to do. We should also show our kids why to do it, so that they will be motivated, they will be seeing the wisdoms and hikmah in every one of those good things, and then they will be motivated to it, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Brother Yusuf Kara, and we thank everyone who have joined us tonight. We greatly appreciate your presence and commitment in this weekly seminar. May Allah accept your time and efforts as an act of ibadah. Jazakallahu khairan kaseera. Let us end this session with Tasbih Quran Surat Al-Asr. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Al-Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqq. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Thank you very much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum and good night.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.